If you want to think more clearly than 99% of people, learn more quickly, and master almost anything in the age of AI, you need to bring back one forgotten skill: how to think on paper. I've spent decades in boardrooms and tech companies worth billions, and the sharpest thinkers I know still reach for pen and paper. So in this video, I'm going to share a complete system for how to think, how to learn, how to create using the most powerful thinking tool you already own. One that costs you $1. Sure, paper will not replace your keyboard or AI today, but it can make you much harder to replace. So let's get started. The first thing we want to talk about is why pen is mightier than the prompt. Writing is slower than typing. Typing slower than prompting. But with each step, we hand off one more layer of our thinking to a machine. We humans have been thinking with our hands for thousands of years. There's a university in Norway, NTNU, and the scientists there found that when we write on paper, the parts of our brain that light up are the same parts where ideas, memories, and learning take place. But the world we live in today is very different. We prompt more than we produce. We used to shape ideas on paper. Now we just rent them, we select them from whatever the machine throws at us. As the French philosopher Descartes once said, "I think, therefore I am." Well, if you outsource your thinking, what's left of you? Here's what surprised me the most. Writing on paper literally shapes your thoughts. That's why the top leaders still think on paper. For instance, Da Vinci kept 7,000 pages of handwritten books. Drawings, diagrams, sketches, blueprints, whatever he could get his hands on. Charles Darwin worked out the theory of evolution by drawing diagrams. And sure, you would say, well, computers weren't invented then, so they had to write on paper. But the same applies for business leaders and thinkers today. From Richard Branson to Nobel Prize-winning author Toni Morrison, and from Michelle Obama to Sam Altman, their ideas start on a piece of paper. And here's the surprise. On paper, you're not just writing, you're drawing by hand. And our brain treats it very differently than just typing. When you type, every keystroke is the same motion. One of your fingers pressing down A or Z, love letter or legal brief. The physical act of creating each letter is identical, which is great for speed. But when you write by hand, every letter is a unique physical experience. The pressure of the pen, the speed of the stroke, the curve of each shape. In neuroscience, this is called haptic perception. Your brain tags each idea with a sensory fingerprint. The thought does not just live on paper, it lives in your body. Every letter you write gives shape to your thoughts. Current science shows that even doodling seems to lower cortisol and reduce performance anxiety. And here's my favorite example. J.K. Rowling wrote the first chapters of Harry Potter by hand in a cafe in Edinburgh while she was surviving on government benefits, anxious about her future. A single mother, single pen, a piece of paper, 450 million copies sold. Now, of course, not everything belongs on paper, but once you know when to use paper, it changes how you think, how you create, and how you even feel. Here's the framework I call the 3 originals. The first one is invention. What do you do when you need to generate something that doesn't exist in the world yet? A new idea, a solution, a direction, a strategy. Use paper to write whatever comes to mind. The rule here is simple. Create, don't criticize. While you're generating, tell your internal judge to take a vacation. Be free, be messy. Write whatever comes to mind, fragments, flashes of completely unrelated thoughts, doodles, drawings. You want to give your brain some breathing room so it can fly through the white space and make connections it hasn't made before. The second is introspection. This is where the fog refuses to lift. I remember when I used to feel overwhelmed or defeated or angry or stuck, I would use paper as my friend, my external mind. It's hard to think your way out of any emotional fog. Sometimes, though, you can give it a language. Label your feelings, name them, accept them, navigate the inner maze. Let the page carry the burden so you can feel light. Once it's out, you can see it. And once you can see it, you can move. And by the way, sometimes typing feverishly also works for me because it captures the stream of consciousness. But usually I find the slower process of writing on paper produces much deeper catharsis. And the third is intuition. Einstein reportedly said if he had 1 hour to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes defining it and 5 minutes solving it. That's first principle thinking, untangling the problem itself. What do I actually know to be true? What am I assuming? How do I formulate this problem? That's where paper comes handy. So invention, introspection, and intuition. Now, why do I call them three originals? Because they are the three unique traits that make you and me truly human. No other human or machine can do those three steps exactly the same way that you'll do them. They are like your fingerprints. Now, let's talk about staring down the void. Because maybe you're thinking, all right, this sounds right, but the moment I face a blank page, I always freeze. Does it happen to you? Researchers from Princeton and UCLA found that students who took notes by hand understood concepts more deeply than those who typed. Now, the typists recorded more words, but they ended up understanding less. More speed with less depth. So if the evidence is this clear, why don't we use paper all the time? Because we don't like staring at the blank page. You know, the blank page syndrome is exactly what drives all of us to ChatGPT. Type something, anything, and within 3 seconds, you're gonna get 3 paragraphs. Instant relief, but only to the symptom. The underlying cause never gets addressed. Because if you shy away from the most uncomfortable moment in all of creative and intellectual work, that blank page, then you're shying away from clarity and originality. In psychology, it's called desired difficulty. The harder your brain has to work to generate a thought, the deeper it gets wired in. The strong resistance is what gives rise to strong results. But doing it without judgment is hard. Here's what happens to all of us. A friend of mine is one of the best cooks I know. Cooking is her calling. She loses herself in it. And every dish is a masterclass. But then there are weeks where she just hates cooking. I asked her about it. And she said, that's when my mother-in-law is visiting. And she stands right there next to me in the kitchen. So no matter how good you are at what you do, when you have to do it while being judged, there's no chance you're gonna create your masterpiece. So I think the blank page is not our problem. The real problem is our inner judge that's staring at it. And that inner voice is telling you that you have nothing new to say. Well, don't listen to it. When you sit down in front of that blank page, you want to quickly form precise ideas. Those 4 words are your 4 judges. Quickly form precise ideas. Let's take each one. First, quickly. Why rush? What's the rush? Your best thinking never arrives on schedule. So give it 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. Stare at it for a while. The point of the paper is to slow you down. Quickly is overrated. Second, form. Nothing on this page needs to be well formed. Half a thought, good. Disconnected words, great. An arrow pointing nowhere, even better. All of it counts. No one's gonna see this piece of paper but you. Third, precise. Now, this is the biggest trap for a lot of us. Be random, be imprecise, let it flow. Even if you haven't found any words yet, write them anyway. And fourth, ideas. It does not have to be a great idea, or a new idea, or even an idea. It can be a feeling, a question, a word, a phrase, a doodle, a shape. Whatever shows up in your head, it's yours. So go ahead and fire all those 4 judges. And remember, you don't need to fill that page. You just have to empty your mind. Do that honestly enough, and that blank page will take care of itself. You know, every idea has a journey, and it needs many vehicles. Paper, keyboard, and AI, they're not rivals, they're partners. You just need to build a system to integrate them. The core question behind this system is not about which tool is best, it's what your idea needs next. So there are 3 ways to think about it. First, if your idea needs freedom, go to paper. When the idea is still fragile, it's a feeling, a fragment, a question that won't leave you alone. Still in its embryonic stage, it needs time and space to be born. That's where paper is perfect. Because on paper, you can let it breathe. Because there's no cursor blinking at you and waiting for you, no autocomplete, no undo, just you and your freedom. Second, if your idea needs form, go to the keyboard. Because you're at a point now when your idea has a pulse and it needs structure and some kind of sequence, sentences, but you still want to spend time with it. You want to be alone with it. That's where keyboard is very good. And finally, if the idea needs feedback, then go to AI by all means. It's your collaborator and your co-pilot. You can have a dialogue with it. It can challenge your idea, it can expand it, it can pressure test it, it can recombine it, find what's missing. This is where deep research is a great tool. Now, this framework is not a sequence. So you can interchange keyboard and AI in any order of your choice. It all depends on what your idea needs next. For example, this video started on this paper, 30 minutes away from any screen. Just fragments, arrows, questions I couldn't answer yet. Then I went to the keyboard for structure, then AI for deep research and refinement, then back again on paper. When I got stuck, I doodled on paper, went for a walk. So from paper to keyboard to AI to paper, the loop continued. Your system is based on what you need next. Is it freedom? Is it form? Is it feedback? Your vehicle will change on this journey accordingly. But in the end, the journey starts with you and ends with you. And that's the most important takeaway from all of this. AI can amplify your ideas, expand them, polish them, even execute your ideas at a scale you never imagined. But it cannot create them for you. For that is you and that piece of paper. Today, AI is already smarter than us in many ways. And intelligence is becoming cheap. It's becoming a commodity. So what makes you irreducibly human? Your creation, your emotion, your intuition. The 3 originals. And paper protects all 3 of them. Think of a sculptor. They don't begin with polish. First comes the rough shape, the messy first cuts, all that work that nobody sees. And if you polish too early, you'll ruin the sculpture. That's why thinking on paper is so crucial. Because, from the beginning of human progress, every giant leap began as a small, innocent, original idea. But each one of them was forged in solitude, through messy first cuts. Your ideas are the same. When you shape them in solitude, they shape who you become, and they shape the world around you. So make your first cut. Make it yourself on a piece of paper before the world or the machine gets to reshape it for you, because it's the most human thing you can do. If you like this video, here's the latest one on how you can have many interests and still be amazingly successful. Thank you, and I love you.